In previous episodes, will it start or will it explode? So Frank was now ready for its next and final stage, getting him approved for use on the public road. All I needed to do was to take the car over to the UK. We hitched the trailer with Frank on it and set off. So we finally arrived at our destination just before nightfall and settled into the hotel for the night. The next day was going to be the big day. This is a story about the pursuit of a lifelong dream. To build my own car from scratch and drive it on the road. A dream that would be met with countless challenges, filled with massive highs and deep lows, encouraged only by the belief that someday I would be driving my own home-built car on the road. This would become my best account on how to approach life as a pursuit of your own interests and passions. Having learned at a very young age that nothing comes for free, that if you want something, you have to do it yourself. You have to get out of your comfort zone and get cracking. Pursue your passion, no matter what it takes. This is a 4-episode story on how I built my own car from scratch, proving that you can accomplish anything you set your mind upon. My name is Tom, and this is my story. Our appointment for the inspection was at 9 AM the next day, so we woke up early, did some last-minute checks, filled Frank's tank to the brim and set off for the test center. When we got there, we met our inspector, unloaded Frank, and started him for the first time since the beginning of the trip.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I did a couple of test runs to warm the brakes and the engine, and I drove it into the testing facility.
Calentar neumáticos. Te parece un poco flimsy, ¿no? No sé si va a probar esto. Un experimento.
Now, I knew it was going to be an exhaustive test where the inspector would check every single nut, bolt, and rivet. Even though I was confident I had followed the IVA manual to a T, I was sweating bullets over every single thing the inspector checked. He started by checking Frank from underneath. He wiggled every cable, tube, fitting there was. Then he began measuring things and checking distances and tolerances, all the while not saying all that much. Just an eventual thumbs up for that part. Then came the brake test. This is where they check that the brakes and the handbrake work evenly on each axle and that the front tires lock up before the rear. This is a safety issue, as you don't want your rear wheels locking up first in an emergency and therefore tail sliding you to the nearest tree. Also, part of this inspection consists of a brake effort test, where an inspector puts a pressure sensor on the sole of his foot to measure how much pedal effort is required to brake effectively. Too much effort and you fail the test. My heart was skipping beats at that stage. There were so many things I could fail on, many of which needed a partial or complete rebuild of some part of the car if they failed. So the brake test finished, the inspector climbed out of Frank, looked at me, said all good, and gave me a thumbs up again. The inspector then proceeded to check the exterior projections of the car, which means he checks every single part of the car for sharp or protruding edges that could harm passengers or pedestrians in case of an accident. This part of the regulations is particularly fastidious. For example, non-padded areas require all edges to be blunted to a radius of 2.5 millimeters. 2.5 millimeters, that's this much. All I had at home when I did these checks was a ruler and a hand file. So he ran his thumb over almost every crevice of the car. In some areas he started tutting and shaking his head. I thought to myself, there it is, I failed. It turned out the chrome trims I put on the sills, purely for decorative reasons, were too sharp around the edges. He then checked the headlights for alignment and beam pattern. Now, I didn't have any expensive machinery required to calibrate the headlights. All I could do at home was use the garage wall with some markings to roughly aim the headlights. This was a potential failing point I knew could happen all along. So he took out his machine to inspect them. He asked me to switch back and forth between main and dip beam. He looked at me and put his thumbs up again and said, "All good." Next, he drove the car onto the rollers to check the accuracy of the speedometer. This was another potential failing point for me because I couldn't calibrate it on the road because it would have been illegal, or on a dyno because it was too expensive. So essentially, a speedometer can never read less than the real speed and can only indicate a speed in excess of the real speed by about 10%. This is the tolerance that is set by regulations, and almost all production cars fall within 5% of the true speed. All I could do to calibrate the speedometer at home was to calculate the wheel circumference and the gearbox and differential reduction ratios and input that data into the speedometer. So the inspector told me he needed to check the accuracy of the speedometer at various intervals, up to and including highway speeds, or 70 miles an hour. 70 miles an hour. I mean, this car never did 10, let alone 70. I was concerned for his safety, if I'm honest. So he put the car on the rollers, he strapped the front of the car to the ground, he climbed in it, shifted it to third gear and took it all the way to 5,000 RPM, where the speedo indicated a speed of 70 miles an hour. To check if it was accurate, he had a handheld display that showed him the real speed according to the rollers. And it read 67 miles an hour. I couldn't believe it. The speedo was bang on in tolerance. So 4 hours had passed since we started the inspection, and Frank still had 2 more tests to go. Next was checking the weight of the car and if it was within design tolerances for this type of the car. At home, I had checked the weight at each axle and calculated the gross weight of the car using 8 bathroom scales, 2 under each wheel, in the true low-cost edition. Now, I knew these cheap bathroom scales would have a margin of error, so I calibrated them as best as I could with known weights first, like a bucket of water, sandbags, myself. Frank passed that test at a total weight of 620 kilograms. Turns out Frank is a little chubby. The final test was a sound level test. This was the big one. Regulations in most countries limit the maximum noise a vehicle can produce. In this case, it was 99 decibels at 75% of the RPMs where peak power is produced. In Frank's case, it would be 75% of 5,850 RPM. And so the tester brought out a sound level meter. And using a protractor and a ruler, he placed the meter exactly at a 45-degree angle from the side of the car, 200 millimeters from the ground and 500 millimeters from the exhaust tip, and told me to rev the car to 4,500 RPM. The racket Frank was making was epic. After about a minute, which for me felt like an hour, he told me to let go of the throttle and stop the engine. The final reading came through. 105 decibels. That's as loud as some jet planes taking off. So the test had ended. And naturally I knew Frank had failed on a couple of things, which in the grand scheme of things were very minor and easily fixable. The tester was also incredibly kind and helpful. He completely empathized with me, as he knew I had studied the inspection manual back to front and he understood everything I went through to build the car in the first place. So he handed me the final report with 3 failing points. The sound level exceeded 99 dB, the chrome trim I had put on the sills had a sharp edge, and for some odd reason, the telltale lamp on the dashboard for the main beams did not light up when switching them on. All in all, I was very happy. In the end, Frank passed all the difficult tests like emissions, chassis, brakes, seat belts, speedometer with flying colors, and failed in these easily fixable things. So we loaded Frank back up on the trailer again and went for lunch and a big beer to talk over our strategy going forwards. I had to find a way to fix that car that evening in the hotel parking lot with what I could find in the local stores and what I had brought along in the toolbox, and pray that a slot would be available the next morning at the station to retest the car and hopefully pass. Slots for testing are limited and often need to be booked months in advance, as I did for the first test, and we couldn't find out if we could book a slot at the station until later that afternoon. So that evening I called to book a slot with all fingers crossed. As it turned out, the operator told me all bookings for the next day were all taken. But just 10 minutes before I called, someone had cancelled their booking for the next day at 9 AM, and I could take it. How lucky was that? I still can't believe the luck I was having in this trip, except of course the trailer and the French with their strikes, but still, I booked the test and rushed off to the hardware store. I needed something to get rid of that chrome trim and replace it with rubber for good measure. So I needed glue, rubber trim, and various other bits, and had to find a car parts shop that sold something to bring down the exhaust noise to 99 decibels or less. This was a tough deal because I knew the only way to fix that properly was to buy a bigger silencer. and that would have required welding, cutting, and replacing other components, which I couldn't do there on the spot in the hotel parking lot. Luckily, the man in the car store was very helpful, and he advised me to buy a dB killer, or decibel killer, instead. It's quite a nifty solution that's used mostly in motorbikes, but also in cars and other vehicles where noise limits are enforced, such as on a track or the road itself. I was a bit skeptical about it at first. I mean, it was a hollow tube with some holes in it that screwed onto the end of the tailpipe. Surely that wasn't going to do much. Nevertheless, I bought it. It was my only chance, so I fitted it to the silencer and tested it with an iPhone app to see if it did indeed kill dBs. The first results upon starting the car with this dB killer were immediate. Frank felt quieter, but we needed to test it at full chat. So there we were at the hotel parking lot on a calm Thursday evening, revving Frank to 4,500 RPM. The app measured 92 dB, 13 decibels less. That's a lot. Even assuming a large margin of error on the iPhone and/or the app, that was good enough. I decided to risk it. Next, we took off that chrome trim and stuck on rubber bits for good measure, and I began to check the wiring about that telltale lamp that didn't turn on with the main headlamps. I thought maybe I had forgotten to wire in that part of the circuit. After all, I had done the wiring harness like 3 years ago and I didn't remember all of the wiring. If I had indeed forgotten to wire in the telltale lamp, that meant partly dismantling Frank to do it properly. It could have been a long night. But straight after removing the steering wheel so I could get my head under the dashboard to look at the wiring, I found out that I had wired the light, and the wire that connected the telltale lamp was simply hanging loose. Somehow the connector had fallen off. So it was just a matter of reconnecting it back to the dashboard. All in all, less than 2 hours were needed to fix all the issues. And Frank was ready for his retest next morning. I still can't believe how lucky I was being. I even rushed out to buy a lottery ticket just in case. We didn't win though, I wasn't that lucky. Anyway, there we were, back again at the testing station next morning at 9 AM sharp. Unloading Frank again and greeting our inspector again, who was impressed with how lucky we were to get a slot the day after. He went straight to test the 3 things we failed initially. He took out his noise meter out again and told me to rev the car to 4,500 RPM again. By the look on his face, I knew we had passed the test. The meter displayed a reading of 95 dB. That was it. The tester handed me the approval certificate and congratulated us. This for me was like receiving a birth certificate. Finally, Frank existed for real now, and he had his own official paperwork. And it was now legal to drive him on the road. Well, after receiving the number plates and hiring insurance. All this effort, experience, hardship, from the massive highs to the deepest lows during the course of this project, every single cut, scrape, burn, shock, cuss, moan, sweat, and teardrop, everything boiled down to this very last moment. A lifelong dream has come true. Finally, the day in which I could drive my own car I have built from scratch with my bare hands has arrived. It's difficult to express my feeling into words right now. All I can tell you from all this experience I have gained, and however corny and cliche it may sound, is to follow your dreams, whatever they are, and regardless of how weird, complex, ambitious, or crazy they may be. If you're passionate enough, you'll do whatever it takes to accomplish it. Trust me, persistence is a product of passion. Follow it and you will see the light at the end of the tunnel. A tunnel I once thought would never come to an end. After 10 years building the thing, plus the other 18 or so years before that daydreaming about it, ever since I was a toddler right up to my late teens, I have never given up on this dream, this passion, that someday I would get to drive my own tailor-made, self-built car on the streets. I overcame countless challenges, difficult decisions, nagging, and oftentimes negative opinions from other people. You know, like, you're crazy, you're never gonna accomplish it, or this is never gonna work. That's why cars are built by big corporations and thousands of engineers and gajillions of dollars. You know, or what are you gonna do once you find out you can't do this or that, or you have to sell and trash the car? All I can say now, and from my deepest, most humble self, is that I've proven all of these people wrong. Fear is the main cause why people lose the drive to pursue their passion, whether it is fear of failing, fear of rejection, fear of the unknown, fear of knowledge, whatever. Only persistence will overcome that fear. Persistence in the belief that you are capable of achieving whatever you set your mind upon. This brings me on to my favorite movie quote, and which I follow as my own life mantra. It comes from a scene, well, many scenes, in Back to the Future.
You know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
This is so true. It's as true and certain as death and taxes. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as you put your mind to it, you will accomplish anything. It's completely true. So this story has come to an end. Finally, I have a car I can say I have built myself with my own two hands. A car I can drive around like any other one out there. This is the end of a lifelong pursuit, but it isn't the end of this story. Now, it's time to enjoy driving Frank.
And here we are, finally on the open road, after months of dreary paperwork, getting the number plates and insurance. And it's terrifying! I mean fun. Terrifying and fun. Yeah. Oh my god, nothing can prepare you for such a raw driving experience. I mean, 620 kilograms, 130 horsepower. A car built by me, harness and everything, and here I am on the road. I was doing 60 back then. Oh my god. The ride quality is actually quite surprisingly comfortable. You know, it's stiff obviously, but you know, it's not crashy through the bumps, if you know what I mean. Then there's this. You know, unlike a normal car, there's no roof, no doors, the road is right there, 12 centimeters from my bum. You know, actually, and other cars that are on the road next to me, even the smallest car feels like a lorry. It's insane. What I do love though is the noise from the exhaust right there. It's intoxicating and deafening. Oh my god. There are also many different foibles from the construction that you just can't predict until you're out on the road. But say for example, right now today, it's bloody cold. I'm not gonna lie, but I just found out that Frank has an inbuilt heater. You know, because if you can look down here, there's a gap between the gear shift lever and the panel it goes through. So all the heat from the engine bay is actually coming out through there, and it's warming up my hand really nice. Mind you, only the right hand though. My left hand is completely frozen. Might have to wear a glove only on this hand. Anyway, enough explaining what the car feels like. Let's open the tops a little bit, see what Frank's really made of. Oh my God! Oh Jesus Christ! Oh, bloody hell! Oh man, it's gonna take me a while to get used to this. Nothing can prepare you for such a barrage of sensations. I mean, right now, I can hear every single noise coming from both outside the car and within. So I can't tell the difference. Oh wait, here comes the car, look at this. Oh! Jesus! Oh my God. Well, as I was saying, what was I saying? Oh yeah. I can hear every single sound, so I can't tell whether that pop or rattle or clang actually came from the outside or from Frank himself. So I can't tell the difference, and it's really distressing. It's like, whoa, what was that? What was that noise? Oh my God. Bad day today. like this, aren't I? Of course, I might have to consider putting a roof on it, or at least a convertible top or some doors or something. But anyway. I mean, I've been driving now for close to 15 years, and I've driven pretty much all sorts of normal cars, but they're nothing compared to this. Driving this one, it's like hopping out of a Cessna straight into a fighter jet. It's absolutely mad. Oh my god, I'm gonna take a long time to get used to this, I'll tell you. It's also incredible sitting from here. I can see every single part of the car moving and how it works. Like for example, I can see the left front wheel just spinning and doing its job, the suspension, everything. Simply amazing. You don't get that in a normal car. Being kicked around. God, I got these sunglasses even though there's no sun outside, but anyway. Only time will tell how reliable and moody Frank will be. All I know is that I've been there for him ever since the beginning. And I've literally gone to hell and back for him. I just hope you'll treat me the same way, Frank. You hear? You better behave. Well, Frank seems to be behaving for now. Engine temperature's good. It's not overheating. Engine sounds fine. No worrying rattles that I can seem to hear. And the fuel mixture is fine. It's a bit on the lean side. But anyway, it's something I can fix. Oh, shit, speed up! That went well. It goes through speed bumps. No way. No. Ah, let's see another one. Yes! It goes through speed humps! That was my biggest worry, actually, just in case you're wondering what the hell he's going on about. Well, anyway, coming soon will be a series of road trips featuring Frank and I, trailblazing through the unknown. Frank and Tom, to the world's end! Actually, no, that's a rubbish name, actually, it's not going to be called like that. But anyway, if you like what you've seen so far, and you're interested in seeing more videos, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you're notified when I upload more videos. Thank you very much for watching, and always remember, follow your dreams, whatever they may be.